Ask Zack is the segment and the way I end every single one of my podcasts. People who support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Zack Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can give more if you want. Please do it. Literally pays my rent. But $1 a month gives you access to submit questions. To me, I only accept questions on Patreon. And, you can send me a Patreon DM. You can comment on a post on Patreon. And I will not guarantee to discuss your question on the show, to read your question and answer it on the show. But I do guarantee I read every single question. I use my eyeballs and I look at every single question that is sent to me on Patreon. And I pick the best couple at the end of every single episode to answer on the show. I want to start with a question from Julian. Julian writes in, he says, hey, quick question. Are Ask Zack questions supposed to be on threads and not DMs? If yes, should I just repost my question on another thread later on? If you're listening and you're a Patreon supporter, send your question to me either through a DM or a post on Patreon. I like when people resend their questions on newer posts because it helps me find them. But I accept questions on the DMs or on a post on. I try to look through everything I can every single episode and scour everything. The newest post is where I look first. So if you post your question on the newest post, that helps me find it. Or sending me a direct message, that's the easiest way. The older post is easy for your ideas and questions to get buried, but I'm doing the best I can. I also wanted to acknowledge Brandon. Brandon asked an NFC West question. He wanted me to predict the NFC West. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm really excited for that. So today I want to start with Anthony. Anthony writes in and says, hey, Zack, as a Dolphins fan, it felt really good to get a W, especially against a division rival. However, if you don't know, the Dolphins beat the Jets. However, it's a little bittersweet as if the season ended last week, the Dolphins would have had the number 1 pick, but now they've been knocked all the way down to number 5 and could be in danger of missing out on some of the top quarterback prospects. After stockpiling so many draft picks, I would hate to see them trade a bunch away. I would hate to see them have to trade a bunch of those draft picks away to move up and grab a quarterback. My question is this. Is it better for the Dolphins to lose out and get a guaranteed top 3 pick, or is it better for the Dolphins to win some games? Does the confidence boost of winning help more than losing draft stock hurts? The Dolphins are perhaps the least talented team in the league, but it can also be hard to shake off a negative losing culture. What are your thoughts? It's really funny. When the Dolphins beat the Jets, I was talking to my dad. I was like, man, you know who really won today were the Bengals. The Bengals lost, and they moved up to number 1. Like, they're going to get the top pick if things keep going this way because the Dolphins won. It's weird, too, to watch the Dolphins and be like, oh, they won? Oh, that's bad for them. It's very bizarre because it seems like they're tanking. They're miserably bad. Everyone kind of assumes that they want to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And it's very interesting. If you go to Instagram and look at the Dolphins' Instagram, they had a video of their coach's pregame speech. Brian Flores giving a pregame speech after the game. He got the game ball for the win, his first victory. Everyone seemed kind of excited. And there's a guy that goes, the first win and many more to come. And, Flores goes, let's not make this a one-time thing. And I was like, man, let's make this a one-time. If you're a Dolphins fan, you're like, I hope you don't win. I want the number 1 overall pick. I want to get Tua. I want to get Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. Now, I will acknowledge, I know the Dolphins want a quarterback. They might not need the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft to get a quarterback. I think a lot of guys are going to be available next year. It's going to be a crazy NFL offseason with a bunch of guys opening up. And so you might not need to get Tua or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. There might be other ways to get a quarterback through free agency. Marcus Mariota, Cam Newton, maybe. This would be insane if Tom Brady went in division to Miami to play. Teddy Bridgewater will be available. There's going to be a lot of guys who are not rookie quarterbacks that'll be available if the Dolphins want one. But I think they definitely want it. They're trying to draft a guy. I honestly, actually, to be frank, I have no idea what the Dolphins are thinking. Do they think they want to build around Josh Rosen? Do they want a veteran? Do they want a rookie quarterback? I don't know. But it does appear that the Dolphins are tanking. Here's why I think the Dolphins are tanking. And tanking, by the way, happens at a management level. Tanking is not the players. The players aren't trying to tank. They can't afford to. Players have to put out a good product every week because, if they want to play in the league next year, what they put on film has to be good plays, has to be high quality. They're trying to play well so they have jobs next year. It's a weird dynamic where I think that the Dolphins management is tanking. What that means is the Dolphins are trying to put out the worst players possible. But then from there, everything has to go towards winning. You can't have a coach like Brian Flores, the head coach of the Dolphins, can't have his plan be, we're not trying to win. You got to keep your skills sharp. You got to make a good game plan every week. You got to have people believe in you, because eventually the plan in Miami is to win games. So Brian Flores can't come out and be not trying to coach a team to victory every week. Brian Flores is trying to win. The players are trying to win. The general manager might not be. The general manager traded away good players. I don't understand the Minka Fitzpatrick trade. I really don't. You don't trade away a good player to try to draft another good player. It's a one-to-one comparison, one-to-one trade. It's kind of weird, but whatever. Maybe he was just unhappy and wanted out of Miami. That's why he got traded to the Steelers. But it's just a weird, bizarre balance and a weird dance where the players and the coaches are doing everything they can to win, but the management might not be. Now, what's better for the Dolphins? Oh boy, I think it's better if the Dolphins have a higher draft pick. I do. I think they want to start fresh. They don't want Josh Rosen. They don't want Teddy Bridgewater. They want to start fresh with a rookie quarterback and build around him. That's what I think they're going to do and going to attempt to do. But it's really hard to be like, oh, you won? That's bad. Because, how do you build a culture if you're losing every game? It's hard to. So you got to give it everything you have. And if you win a game along the way, if you're a Dolphins fan, I guess you can be mad at the meta game. Like, oh, dang it, we're trying to tank. But if you win a game, I think it's good for your culture, because that's the pursuit. The pursuit is trying to win games. So it's a complicated answer. I know that probably doesn't make any sense. I didn't give a hard black and white. But I guess if you're a Dolphins fan and your team wins more games, be happy, because it means that you have a competent coach who's making the best of a really awful roster in a really awful situation. And so I guess, if you're a Dolphins fan and you win games, try to have a good attitude about it, even though I know you're trying to tank for Tua. All right, the next question, there's two questions I want to answer in one. I want to read both at the same time. The first question is from Devin with an E. My freaking phone, whatever. Hey, dude, oh my gosh, whatever. I'm going to read it sideways. Devin writes in, Devin says, do you believe the Chargers will ever succeed in the LA market, or will they be forced to move somewhere? Do you believe the Chargers will ever succeed in the LA market, or will they be forced to move somewhere? If not, where and why? Where will they move and why? Matthew writes in, Matthew says, just saw a hot take on whether the Chargers should move to London after not being able to find a fan base in LA. What are your thoughts on a team, whether it's Jacksonville, the LA Chargers, or otherwise moving to London? Also, if the NFL expands to other countries, would it need to change its name? Now, the NFL will not change its name. It's too big of a brand to recognize. Number one, people in LA who aren't Chargers fans are really difficult to get them to become Chargers fans. People in LA are Packers fans, they're Steelers fans, they're Bears fans, they're Giants fans. They're fans of the team and the place they came from. And I lived in LA once. I worked on a movie there, and I understand the movie industry is probably a very it's a certain group of people. They go to LA to work on movies. But everybody I met in LA was not from LA. I haven't ever met someone in LA who was actually from LA. I'm not even kidding. It blew my mind. I was like, the number one question when you're in LA is, where are you from? Because everyone is from all over the world and all over the country. Very rarely, in fact, I never met anybody who was actually from Los Angeles when I lived in LA. And so it's really hard to get people to, if you're from Wisconsin and you live in Los Angeles, you're a Packers fan. If you're from New York and you live in Los Angeles, you're a Giants fan. If you're from Portland, Oregon, or from Seattle, Washington, and you live in LA, you're a Seahawks fan. Now, Portland's different. Portland's its own city, not necessarily. I'm from Portland. I'm not a Seahawks fan. A lot of people accuse me of that. I don't even talk about Seahawks that much. I don't care. My point is this. It's really hard to get people to change their allegiance when they're already a fan of someone else. That's why the Chargers have they play games, and it's really like an away game in their own stadium, because people from LA, all the Packers fans in LA go to the game when the Packers play the Chargers. Whenever the Bears go to LA, all the Bears fans that live in Los Angeles go to the stadium and watch the Bears play the team in LA. That's how it works. There's a really good video on this. I recommend you watch it. I don't hate it because he deserves it, but he's way bigger than me. Pat McAfee made a video about the London thing, and Pat McAfee has played in the NFL. He has got insight. He's played in games in London, so he really understands this dynamic. Pat said that, logistically, not just, playing a game alone is hard in London because it's a long flight. It's a giant mess. And if you were to put a team in London, you'd have to make families move there for like 8 weeks out of the year because they play 8 home games. And they're not going to live permanently in London. And then here's another wrinkle. This is what was really cool that Pat mentioned that I really liked and had some insight on. And he's totally right. It's something I hadn't thought of, is that when a lot of people don't realize how frequently players fly to the city a team is in, work out for them, and then might not make it. But you have to fly to that team to try out and work out for them at their facility. An example I think of, I follow Max Brown. He's from Washington, where I live. Max Brown is a former USC quarterback. Last year went and worked out for the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. He went to Virginia and worked out for the Washington Redskins at their facility. He didn't make the team, but he had to fly to both locations to try out for them. If there's a team in London, are you going to fly people all the way to London to try out for you just to not make it? Like, that's a very difficult thing to convince people of, and it's hard to do that. So you'd have to either have a location, a headquarters in America, where you practice 8 times, it's very convoluted having to travel back and forth all the time. And then here's a really big thing that is very important, is that I talked about how in LA, fans in LA haven't adopted the Chargers. If you move a team to London, you're not necessarily going to make a bunch of people in London suddenly Chargers fans or suddenly Jaguars fans. I made a really dumb video years ago where I made a strong argument because I was being the hot take guy at the time. As I had a different approach back then, and I said that if you moved a team like the Jaguars to London, you dominate the market because you're the only people there. There's a ton of money in London if you move there, and I don't think that's actually true. Look at London. London is very similar to LA. People in London are Bears fans, they're Giants fans, they're Jaguars fans, they're Packers fans, they're Patriots fans, they're Falcons fans. A lot of Falcons fans internationally like the colors. They saw that Super Bowl run with Matt Ryan. There's a lot of people internationally, and they already have a team. If you're a Falcons fan and the Chargers move to your city, you're still probably going to be a Falcons fan. It's rare because we see it in LA. Falcons fans in LA haven't converted and become Chargers fans. Why would a Falcons fan in London convert and become a Chargers fan? It's not going to happen. So I think logistically it'd be a mess. I don't think they're not guaranteed to find a fan base if you move a team to LA. I think, honestly, somewhere in Alabama or somewhere in St. Louis, Las Vegas is getting a team, that's great. Go somewhere that really wants an NFL team. There's a city out there I know that would love to have an NFL team. It might be London. I might be wrong. There might be a group of people vying to get the LA Chargers there, but I don't think that the Chargers would necessarily find a fan base in London, especially. I don't know if any team can. It's too difficult to have the whole 8 games in London, then 8 games in America. That's very difficult. And then there's so many other distractions in London. Not only is there soccer, which soccer is the main dominating sport in Europe, there's also just a ton of other things to do. There's so many other things to invest your time in. When I lived in LA, oh my gosh, there's a plethora of stuff to do. I know that's a very common thing people say. In fact, for that reason, I wouldn't want to go back to LA because I get overwhelmed. Like, I just want to be at my house and work, literally. But I just don't believe that if you move a team to London, necessarily you're guaranteed a fan base. I think it's hard logistically, and I don't know that having a team in London is a good idea. I think having more neutral site games there is great because people want to go to the games. Give the people in Europe that experience. But I don't think that having a team in London is necessarily the best idea. All right. The next question is from Dominic. Dominic writes in. He asked about the LSU game. Dominic writes in. He says, "Hey, Zach, I was just wondering what your precautions..." I don't know if he means precautions. That's pretty funny if he does. Or predictions. But he says, "What are your precautions for the LSU versus Alabama game this weekend? What do you think LSU needs to do in order to get the win? Thanks in advance. Love your show as always." So I think there's a chance that LSU actually gets smoked in this game. LSU and Alabama play. Maybe not. Maybe LSU doesn't get beaten pretty badly. They have an incredible quarterback, Joe Burrow, that I love. And I'm excited to watch this matchup. I hope it's going to be great. But LSU's margin of victory in a couple of their games concerns me. The Texas LSU game, LSU beat Texas 45-38. They gave up 38 points to Texas. They only beat them by 7 points. I know that LSU's beaten a lot of teams badly, but then you look at, they beat Florida 42-28. They beat Florida by 14 points. They won by 2 touchdowns, but that's against a backup quarterback. They gave up 28 points to Kyle Trask, the backup quarterback at Florida. I think Bama would embarrass Texas. I think Alabama is going to beat Florida if they play them. I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they do this year. But if Alabama played Florida, I think Bama wins by 4 touchdowns. I think Alabama embarrasses Texas, and they embarrass Florida because they're just better physically. And I don't like saying all this because I know Texas fans and Florida fans get all mad, and college football fans in general are far more emotional. They're kind of irrational, and they just, all they want to hear, Baylor fans really want me to talk about their team. And all Baylor fans want to hear is, my team's undefeated, they're going to win a national championship. And if I say anything else other than Baylor's incredible, they get really mad at me. If I give you my realistic opinion, people get mad. That's why college football is difficult for me, because people are so irrational in that sport. But look at the Auburn LSU game. LSU beat Auburn 23-20. Right, against a freshman quarterback, LSU barely won. It was a close game till the end. It's a physical, they're physical equivalents, right? LSU and Auburn match up physically really well. LSU and Florida match up really well. LSU and Texas match up physically really well. And I think it's possible Alabama just dominates LSU because they're physically far better. They're just the margin. When Alabama plays Auburn, they probably are going to beat them pretty badly. A freshman quarterback against Alabama's defense, feel bad for that. I think it's possible. My prediction for the game, honestly, is that if Tua Tagovailoa plays well, and the quarterback at Alabama is questionable, people say he's going to play. I think if one team wins by a lot, it's going to be Alabama. I think it's possible Alabama wins by 2 or 3 scores and pulls away late, where they get another touchdown at the end to make the score 2 scores or 3 scores at the end. I hope it's a close game. I'm not guaranteed that it will be. But the key is Alabama's quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. He got surgery on his ankle. And to me, Tua, Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert. In fact, actually, I think it's just Tua or Joe Burrow. They're the 2 best quarterbacks in college football. Bama healthy, Bama with a healthy Tua is a very different program than Bama without Tua. Tua's expected to play. I saw a video of him throwing today. And I hope that LSU and Alabama is a wild, incredible football game. But again, if one team wins by a blowout, it's not going to be LSU. The question in this game is, can LSU rise to the occasion? The question is not about Bama. The question in this game is LSU. That's my precaution. That's my thought about the LSU-Alabama game. Lenny writes in. Lenny had a question. He says, in about a week, we are going to see a great quarterback matchup between Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. Who do you think is the best of the two right now? Who do you think is the best of those 2 quarterbacks right now, and who has the highest ceiling? I think Deshaun Watson does. Deshaun Watson's better. He's a better passer. I think Deshaun Watson is one of the most underappreciated football players in the entire NFL. Nobody talks about him as much as he deserves. Russell Wilson's getting credit finally this year, but Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson are 2 of the most undervalued and underappreciated football players in the world. Both have incredible arms, and both are able to, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson are able to win with average to bad offensive line play. They can still win games. Deshaun Watson's unreal. I really should do a film analysis of him to explain how much I love watching him, why he's so good. He can run, but he runs differently than Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson runs to run for yardage. Deshaun Watson can do that, but Deshaun Watson runs when he needs to, and he usually runs to extend plays and keep a play alive and throw the ball downfield. Lamar Jackson lowers his head and runs. To me, Deshaun Watson's a better passer than Lamar. He just is. He's got better accuracy. He just throws the ball better. He's got better location, more accurate. and he's better at reading defenses. Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I think he has a higher ceiling because his ability to throw the ball is better. And at the quarterback position, as much as I love what Lamar's doing, I just did a topic of how impressed I was about Lamar. But quarterback's still about throwing the ball. And Deshaun Watson's vastly better at throwing the ball than Lamar Jackson. Deshaun Watson, is a better quarterback and has a higher ceiling than Lamar. The next question is from Ryan. I love this question. Ryan says, "Hey, Zach, I've been listening to this podcast for about a month and a half now. And listening to your show is one of the best parts of my week. When I discovered you, I was in a terrible place mentally, and your message made me open up to my family and friends and begin to get help." Dude, thank you, by the way. I got some comments yesterday that were like, "I hate when you do this topic. It's so depressing." If you don't like the topic, if you're struggling to get help, you can skip it. I hope you're aware of that. If you don't like that topic, skip ahead. But that message, I've heard from many people, that message is important to them. I'm going to leave it in. I think if you're struggling to get help, it's an important segment. I'm glad you said that, Ryan. It's meaningful to me. Ryan said, "I want to say thank you for the impact you've had on my day to day and also for your preaching about mental health awareness. My question is, who inspires you to work hard day in and day out, and where do you see yourself in 5 years with regards to your show? Thanks again for everything you do and will continue to do with the show." So, yeah, my brother is the biggest inspiration to me. He's the reason I started the show. 5 years from now, I just hope that I have better tools to make the show. My whole life is dedicated to, I got my own place because I wanted a better spot to make the show. I got faster internet. I pay for faster internet because I want to make the show better. I don't sleep because I want to make the show. My whole life is geared toward creating the best possible show I can. I hope that 5 years from now, I have better tools, a faster computer. I hope I have a show that has more guests more frequently. Maybe someday I hire an editor. I'll be on like a video editor. Although I'll be honest, I don't want to change too much. I really like the tone of the show. I feel like a rebel, like I'm an anti-television network. I do my own thing. I do it my way. And I don't want much. I'm very happy. I love my life. I have a wonderful girlfriend. I have my dream job. I have it all, man. I really love it. I just want to keep growing in viewership, and I really want to get better. It's so hard, but I want to just steadily improve every single episode. I wrote down 3 things that motivate me. Number 1 is that I love this. I love making strong opinion sports. You can't do this if you don't love making content. You can't do what I've done. It's just impossible because the sleepless nights, it's too much work. And I think too many people, if they try to do what I do, I think they would quit. Honestly, it's really, really difficult. I don't sleep a lot. I'm on edge. I'm tired, but I'm proud of it and I love it. If you don't love it, I don't think you could do it. And then I have genuine curiosity. The number 2 thing is curiosity. When I watch film, for example, I genuinely want to learn. I want to learn, what's the film say about Josh Rosen? Does he suck? Why was Marcus Mariota benched? How good is Jimmy Garoppolo? These are questions I want to answer. I love doing that that's why I watch film, as I love it. When I made the first ever film analysis video of Josh Rosen, I was just curious. Does he suck? The media kept talking about Josh Rosen. Nobody talked about the facts. They just said opinion after opinion after opinion. I was like, let's just get to the root of this. Is he good or not? What's the film say? And that's my approach and what's always been. I'm just genuinely curious. And, the storylines for me are so much fun to follow. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And the third thing that motivates me is fear. I grew up in a mobile home. My family was homeless at one point in my life in high school. That's miserable. I don't ever want to go back to that. I really, really, I want to have kids someday. I want to have a good place for them. And I just want to be able to pay my rent. I just want to be successful. I just want to survive. I love my humble little place. It's given me privacy. It's given me solitude that I love. It's given me comfort. And I have this incredible workspace that I love. And, the 3 reasons I love this show and the 3 reasons that motivate me. I love doing strong opinion sports. I'm passionate about it. I'm genuinely curious. I have questions I want answered. I love following the storylines. And then number 3 is I'm motivated by fear. I don't want to fail. I just don't. I love the show so much. I don't want to lose it. Nothing means more to me in the entire world than Strong Opinion Sports. This is just my favorite thing in the world. And doing this show, I believe, comes with a lot of responsibility. I don't screw around. I don't go out drinking with my friends. My job is to watch sports and make content about it. And I take that job very, very seriously. I've missed out on parties and get-togethers, and part of that's because I'm an introvert who's a quiet nerd who would rather stay home and work and watch film. That's honestly genuinely what I would rather do than go out. But part of that is because I think that, to do this, you got to pay the price. And to pay the price of having the job you love and having the best job in the entire world, you got to pay the price, which means skipping out on going out with your friends, and means you don't have as much social fun. But I get to do the job I love, and I think that's, my friends hate their jobs. And if I can have the job I love, it's all worth it to me. It really is all worth it to me. And then it's really, really hard to gradually get better. I'm trying everything I can. I hope every episode it gets a little bit better every single time. But it's so easy for things to get formulaic. I felt myself kind of drifting into that. It's so easy for things to become formulaic. And I have to fight against that really, really hard. So those are the 3 things that motivate me. I love it. I'm genuinely curious. I'm passionate about it. And I have a lot of fear. I don't want to fail. Now, the last thing I want to read from Patreon is from Julian. Julian writes in, he says, "Hey, Zach, I'm quite a new fan. Started listening at the beginning of the NFL season. I wanted to add to the international fan stories you wanted to know more of. Now I'm a Seahawks fan, and I didn't really start until I was blessed enough to visit my family in Seattle. Now, for context, I'm Filipino, and I'm living in New Zealand. I'm a proud New Zealand citizen now. Congratulations, Julian. That's awesome. Basketball has always been a big in the Philippines. What the heck? Why won't it flip? Your phone ever done this where it won't turn? Thank you. It's right side up, and it just would not flip. Where were we? Now, for context, this is Julian. Now, for context, I'm Filipino and living in New Zealand. I'm a proud New Zealand citizen now. Congratulations. That's awesome. Seriously, dude, that's fantastic. Basketball had always been big in the Philippines, and the people really loved the sport. So it was natural that the NBA was huge in the Philippines. I used to be like you and just love watching basketball, and I never really hooked onto a team. Until that amazing trip, I got to experience a division-clinching game between the Seattle Supersonics and the OKC Thunder. The Seattle Supersonics / OKC Thunder and New Orleans Hornets. It was then my little brainchild, and my heart got hooked on the atmosphere and the passion of the people in Seattle. Strangers coming together and sharing a love for their team and sport. I've never felt so at home than while being surrounded by an entire stadium of people I did not know." That's awesome you felt that way in Seattle. I used to live in Seattle. That's really cool. So from that trip on, I started supporting the Seattle sports teams. I never had time to watch all the sports, so American football and basketball were the 2 sports I followed. He said, "Apologies for the essay, but I wanted to share and reach fandoms that American sports has had on the world. Keep up the good work. I'm so glad to have found your channel." Thank you, Julian. And there's a part of the story I've never told. I forgot. I used to be a Seattle Mariners fan and a Seattle Sonics fan. The Sonics left, and the Mariners sucked. And I was like, screw it. I don't have a favorite team. I was never that into the Seahawks. And I was like, the reason I don't have a favorite team is because the Mariners broke my heart, and the Sonics broke my heart when they left. I was a big Seattle Sonics fan. I was so excited. Like when I was a kid, I would say, "Dad, I'm going to move to Seattle someday. I'm going to go to all the sports games. They have every sport I could ever want." It didn't have hockey. I think they're getting hockey. They had there was a way to watch hockey. I can't remember why, but I know there's hockey in Seattle somewhere. But I was like, man, I'm going to go to Seattle. When I was a kid, I wanted to grow up. I had pictures and a photo album. It's like, I'm going to go to Seattle and watch every sports game I want. They have because we lived in Portland, and Portland only has the Blazers. The freaking the Blazers, right? And I was like, man, I'm going to Seattle and they'll have everything I want. Baseball, basketball, football. The baseball team was terrible. They broke my heart. And the basketball team left. And so young Zack as a kid was like, well, to heck with that. I'm not a fan of anybody. There's a reason why I don't have a favorite team. That's why. The Seattle sports world broke my heart. But Julian, I'm happy you're a fan of Seattle sports teams. I love that, man. I'm happy for you. And I've never been to a Seahawks game, but I know that people say they're incredible. I hope you get to go to a game someday. I hear they're really, really loud, really, really fun. Guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. And, man, I want to end the show with my favorite song in the world. I listened to this so many times today. It's awesome. I love it. This is Wasted Time by Almost Blonde. Again, it's Almost Blonde and their single, Wasted Time. Have a great day. Enjoy this song.